I'm Leanna Hawkins, and we are at the 2023 Future of Deal Making Summit. I am joined by Robert Koven. He is Managing Director at Leonis Partners. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here today. Why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about Leonis Partners and the work that you've been doing there recently?
Yeah, I'd love to. Leonis Partners is a mid-market boutique investment bank. It's located here in New York, headquarters. We also have an office in London. We are focused exclusively within the software and technology world. We do a lot of tech-enabled services as well, but that's pretty much as far as we get in terms of width. Day to day, the companies that we work with are usually somewhere between $300 or $400 million of enterprise value down to the bottom. Probably 2/3 of what we do in a year is sell-side M&A work for predominantly founders, entrepreneurs, and owners. The other third is really kind of a minority growth capital, helping companies accelerate their top-line growth, maybe getting some liquidity, but that's where we spend most of our time.
So looking into the future of 2024 and beyond, what are some of the sectors and geographies that you're most excited about that you think are poised for action?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we tend to stay very North American and Western Europe focused. We think that there's been a pretty big change in terms of behavior between 21 and 23. I think everybody would tell you that. We've seen it in our market. As we go into 24, we think there are some thematics that will be at play that will start to unlock the M&A market a little bit more than it has been. We've this year seen the ability to get really good companies, really nice pricing. Companies that have a little bit more challenging kind of profile, it's a much more draconian market out there. I think that probably continues into early 24. So we get excited by the areas where there's some really secular tailwinds. The area of cyber, for example, where there's a tremendous amount of pent-up demand for the obvious reasons of what's going on out there these days, and other areas like that continue to unlock a lot of value.
And we usually keep these pretty positive. However, without having an actual crystal ball, I would love if you could give us some of your insights as to what might be potential challenges on the horizon, and then some opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think there's the obvious, right? You've got two wars going on. You've got a interest rate infrastructure that's changing, looks to be topping out potentially. Whether it moves down or stays flat, hard to tell. Those have been very big adjustments for most strategics and private equity firms out there as they look at their own cost of capital. It's been hard on the owners of businesses that have to look at multiples that have come down as a result of that repricing. As you look forward, I think there's a little bit of a element where even if rates come down a bit, I think there's a little bit of a psychology change about whether or not rates can really come dramatically down. We've been in a 40-year period of rates easing. I think there's a lot of folks that are probably unaccustomed to asset pricing where rates are flat or even up. And so I think as you look at the challenges that Washington presents between budgets and other problems, shutdowns, et cetera, depending on whether that's reconciled and what that does to the longer term rates, I think there's a little bit of a tail risk challenge out there that remains as you think about some of those rates. So if you think about outside risk, I think you run some of those. The other risks, there's a lot of known risks, right? And so those, I think everybody's got their head around, and the question is how do they play out?
Yeah, and I suppose that's really where a firm like yours and the work that you do is supposed to add value and help people through those challenges.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is, to the extent that the companies have the right KPIs, they're performing, very well. The market's still really robust, so we can take those companies into the market right now and get outcomes that look like they would have in 2021 at near some of the market highs. In fact, some of those outperforming those market highs. And then as you kind of deviate away from those kind of companies that feel like, quote, the perfect company, that market is more challenging. I think the pricing there has been a lot more unstable over the last 2 years. And I think as people are getting their heads around where it's repriced to, and people are providing some sort of intellectual honesty about where that is to owners out there, I think if the owners wanted to transact at those levels, you can still tread into the market. So it's really trying to give owners and operators insight as to what's going on at the moment.
Potentially difficult series of discussions, but ultimately everybody having the same goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, nobody likes to hear their baby be ugly. So,
Yeah, exactly. Let's end on a positive note. So we've gone over some of the challenges. Let's talk about some of the opportunities you see ahead.
Yeah, I think as we look at 24, we know there's been a really big delay in terms of capital deployment by the private equity community. At some point, if they want to continue to fundraise and grow their fund size, their AUM, they're going to have to both hand back capital, which they've been slow to do this year. So we think you'll see an updraft in terms of the number of private equity-backed companies coming to the market next year to return capital back to their LPs. We also think as that happens, you'll also see them take a more aggressive stance on deployment because they are behind on average, and the deployment cycles, in funds that were raised in 2021 As you get into the end of 24 and into 25, you're probably running up against that wall where if you're not deploying and being on cycle, it's hard to raise the next fund.
Yeah. Well, it'll be exciting to see how that all plays out.
We're excited.
Thanks for your insights today. You're watching M&A TV.